Yo, what's up, y'all? Hope y'all feeling good? Today we're gonna be reacting to how nature accidentally created the perfect animal by Casual Geographic. I hope it's gonna be good. Let's jump into it.
Alive to see what this animal looks like, she'd probably resign from life all over again. When you think of some of the weird, if Helen Keller was alive to see what this animal looks like, she'd probably resign from life all over again. When you think of some of the weirdest, most aesthetically atypical animals on Earth, chances are you probably don't think of the elephant. But imagine trying to explain the concept of a four-legged behemoth in the weight class of a semi-truck, with a leviathan for a nose, a trypophobic's night terror for a tail, several superpowers and intelligence that might just rival our own, all while flexing the devil's potentials with an overbite. Well, in honor of today being National Thai Elephant Day, and elephants being my all-time favorite animal, here's why the bouncers of the savannah have an argument for not just the weirdest, but maybe even the most perfect animal in nature. Now, they didn't always look like this, and honestly, thank the stars for second drafts. Platypelodon was an ancient ancestor with the facial configuration of a shovel. Apparently, having a spork for a jaw allowed them to undress a tree for its bark. But it also makes it look like the subject of a patent sip spiked with LS. Then you got Dinotherium, because apparently nature played pin the teeth on a tusker and it took a
Like, I'm not freaking out seeing all these pictures because I'm into this stuff. I've seen these pictures like 100 times. He's not the first person to talk about this type of stuff, so yeah, you know what I mean.
couple tries. Technically, they're not true elephants and more like a distant cousin. But then again, it's not like the elephants' actual
Well,
relatives make any more
ew.
sense. Because elephants have the most confusing family reunion of any creature, with their closest kin being the definitely not a
Bro, why does his head look like a butt? Like, why does his head sound like a little butt right now?
have the most confusing family reunion of any creature, with their closest kin being the definitely not a rodent rock hyrax, and Columbus wet dream the manatee and the dugong.
That's
To be fair, I
like those have to be some of the cutest animals. Period.
elephants have the most confusing family reunion of any creature, with their closest kin being the definitely not a rodent rock hyrax, and Columbus wet dream the manatee and the dugong.
Cutest animals with the one in the middle being the cutest. Like I don't know if y'all probably know if you watch my channel. Like I love marmots. Anything close to a marmot related to a marmot, I love those types of animals. So seeing the hyrax, I love it. You know what I mean? But all these animals are cute, but you can't really. I mean, honestly, the manatee and the dugong, I can see that resemblance because like between like I think the closest relatives to whales and dolphins and stuff is like a hyena or something like that, or is related to dogs and bears. So I mean, you can see that difference. I can also see the difference in a manatee and a elephant. But a hyrax, I don't quite see it. But hyraxes are cute as fuck though.
To be fair, I guess hyraxes do have tusks, and apparently manatees have the same nail tech, but elephants are also in the same Afroterier group as aardvarks, tenrics, and golden moles.
Yeah.
Yeah, you heard that right. I said mole. By the way, elephants didn't just get less weird looking, we just got desensitized to them. There is no build on Earth quite like the elephant, and it isn't until you look at all that nonsense separately and put it back together again that it starts to make sense. Beauty is skin deep. So that's exactly where we're starting. This picture went viral because many came to the conclusion that elephants aren't light gray, just chronically ashy, and that's for a couple of reasons. Elephants can live 70 years in the wild, and they do that without ever touching lotion a day in their life, so maybe don't be so judgmental. But for how thick it is, elephant skin is pretty sensitive, so they'll use dust baths and mud masks to protect against the oppressive African sun. Because humans weren't the first to come up with skincare, and depending on the color of the mud, you can get an elephant straight out of King Midas's palace, or a herd in red face from the volcanic dust of Sava. You can also find white elephants covered in clay and mud, not to be confused with the white Asian, call it Wasian elephants that were revered by royalty. Also, depigmentation means Asian elephants have freckles, but let me stop waffling. The skin itself has more cracks than a tanorexic, and looks suspiciously like what a drought in their neighborhood looks like, and it's because the tiny network of dermal ditches and valleys means their skin retains 10 times the water it would if they had glass skin. It's great defense against the sun, but not completely against insects. Which brings us to this. There's two types of people, those that know what an elephant's tail looks like up close, and those I owe an apology, and probably a bill for therapy. If you've
Ew.
ever touched one, it feels like cheap plastic. So basically a built-in fly swatter for an animal with no hands and more junk than its trunk can reach.
Oh.
Pause. They also have hair on their heads, and like everything else about this pachyderm, this too has a purpose. Elephants have about 1 hair per square inch to our 1,300, and social distancing fur follicles actually transfers heat away from the elephant, in some cases by over 20%. That's how you get a baby elephant with a better lineup than me. You see, he doesn't have to wear a hat. And with Asian elephants being hairier, they're much more liable to grow bangs and score an audition on Abbey Road. That doesn't even scratch the surface of their weirdness. The African variety has large ears with blood vessels that also helps them with the heat while also looking suspiciously like the continent they live on. That heat is why they're also one of the few animals with their testes locked inside next to their kidneys. Honestly, for the best. Elephants also have a pharyngeal pouch behind the tongue, pretty much an emergency 4-liter life flask to hold them over during a bad drought. I didn't even know that. They have feet that actually we'll get to that. They have modified teeth that are arguably the biggest flex in the animal kingdom, but probably too big because it's also gotten them violated by poachers to the point where evolution is starting to backpedal on tusks. Also, elephants have big personalities. To be fair, they are mammals, and mammals with mammaries are nothing special. But that trunk it might just be the second most open in nature, with the first being thumbs. Special. But that trunk it might just be the second most OP body part in nature, with the first being thumbs. An elephant's trunk has 40,000 muscles. That's about 40,000 reasons to stay out of their hitbox. They also have 400,000 nerves controlling it. That means the same trunk that can deadlift 2 prime shacks at 700 pounds is also
you see the precision? Like, bro, look at the precision.
That means the same trunk that can deadlift 2 prime shacks at 700 pounds is also delicate enough to pluck a blade of grass. And that's cause the tip of the trunk has prehensile grip. That's not the only thing that's prehensile, but I digress. It's kind of like fingers that African elephants have 2 of and Asians only 1, and it allows a full-time quadruped to pick stuff up. They're also one of the very few animals able to throw, and the day they develop aimbot, humanity is cooked. There's plenty of other uses for their trunks, some of them even social. It's so complicated that not only does it take a year or 2 for babies to figure them all out, baby elephants even have an awkward phase where they literally don't know what to do with it. It's actually why you'll see them helicopter it around. There's a joke in there somewhere, I'm not gonna make it, I'm sure the comments will, but just know we're not that different. And if you follow a young elephant long enough, you'll even see it step on its own trunk. It takes time for them to get all the controls down, but until they do, its best use is as a pacifier. But it takes more than looking like Nature's Science Project for me to confidently call you the weirdest animal on the planet. You better be packing some pretty impressive abilities too. And let it be known, no animal packs more than an elephant.
Oh my god!
Elephants are more than capable of humbling. Elephants are more than capable of humbling an entire tree if the end game. Plus, being the biggest thing with life and legs on the planet means this is what happens when second and third forget their place. And a battle royale featuring every land animal ain't nothing touching them.
Like, honestly, I don't know how animals can really step to like in the savannah, how they can really step up to like a big ass elephant. Like, I know lions do it, but like, how can anything else step up to a lion and to an elephant? It's crazy.
Male elephant. Elephants also have the best smell of the animal kingdom, strong enough to threaten a bloodhound's job security. They can sniff out a watering hole over 10 miles away, and they don't just smell where or what food, but elephants can smell how much food. In experiments, elephants were able to consistently sniff and pick the container with the most sunflower seeds without even eyeballing it. A test even dogs failed. Elephants are also way better swimmers than they have any business being. Most mammals can swim, but bigger ones like rhinos and giraffes are pretty poor. And despite gatekeeping watering holes and being a literal land whale, hippos technically can't swim at all. Elephants can't relate. They can swim for hours and cover miles searching for food. There's even a theory that munchies made modern-day mastodons swim from India to the nearby island of Sri Lanka. To put in perspective, there's at least one shark on the planet aware of the existence of elephants. That's kind of crazy to think about. Elephants also have infrasonic hearing and can communicate through low-frequency vibrations. They're too low for any of us to hear, but the sound can travel for miles, and the pachyderms pick up the long-distance calls through their feet. See, I told you we'd get back to that. Thanks to a fatty, spongy-like cushion. Also, you're seeing that right. Elephants do have built-in high heels. That's why there are stories of elephants saving people from tsunamis before they even happen. Elephants even have different infracalls with different meanings. Because of course,
I like this music in the background. I really like it.
They do. You got a greeting rumble used when a family member gone for hours suddenly returns, a rumble the matriarch uses to get the herd moving, and even a congratulation rumble for when an elephant in the group gets laid. That's a Snapple fact for you. Not to be confused with the symphony of an elephant baby shower. In fact, those calls are often how they end up with a baby. See, the problem with spending nearly 2 years pregnant and another 10 raising a calf that comes out is dating's a different kind of drought. A mother elephant might be open for business once every 5 years, so once that window does open, she makes the elephant equivalent of a Facebook event by broadcasting a booty call to every eligible bachelor in the area. It's like a Batman symbol for down bad bulls, and before long,
I was like, that's the boys right there, bro.
Every eligible bachelor. It's like a Batman symbol for down bad bulls, and before long, she's attracted more testosterone than the state of Florida during spring break. And like a 13,000-pound frat boy drunk off lust, violence is the only option. where the winner gets to pass on his genes, while the loser makes sure he's not the only one that's sore. Now, the next superpower is no surprise because you've definitely heard the phrase, an elephant never forgets. Depending on the context, that's either a throwaway fact or a very real threat. But elephants do have steel trap memory, and it's because their life literally depends on it. As an elephant, the most important resource in your life is water. And during the dry season, that can mean walking hundreds of miles to the next watering hole. Imagine living in an area the size of New York with only 5 water fountains and no Google Maps to bail you out. All you have is your memory. That's why elephant herds are led by a matriarch who uses her years of experience to not only bring her family to water, but to the right watering hole at the right time of year. Get it wrong and the whole herd becomes the beginning of a Disney movie. Instead, you got Big Mama carrying the entire family off a brain that runs like a supercomputer, able to pull memories older than some of the members of the herd when she needs it. So as you can see, elephants don't just have one of the freakiest builds in nature, but one of the craziest skill sets too. It's how the largest landlubber on the planet can survive and thrive on the savannah, in dense tropical jungles, desolate hellscape and sun-baked deserts, and even inside dark caves to mine salt. Elephants be splunkin', but all those abilities wouldn't mean as much without the most busted ability of all, their intelligence. Elephants aren't smart, dogs and cats are smart. Now elephants are prodigies. In my admittedly biased opinion, they're the smartest thing on the planet that isn't a human. Sometimes they give us a little time. They might not be putting elephants on the moon or breaking down quantum physics or watching Rick and Morty. But elephants do one-up humans every so often. Some Asian elephants have memorized the schedules of trucks carrying sugar cane and will wait posted on the side of the road just to hold up the truck to help themselves to the harvest. They even figured out how to take just enough to satisfy themselves, but not so much that they force their drivers to do something about it. It's basically an elephant enforced toll, but okay, you're not impressed, I got you. Elephants raiding crops have led some farmers to protect their product using an electric fence. Clearly they weren't familiar with their game because those same elephants eventually learned how to disarm the fences without getting hurt. And that's the thing with its memory, it really only takes one experience for an elephant to learn from to have that knowledge for the rest of its life and pass it off to others. And a prime example of that are the elephants of Amboseli National Park in Kenya, where they've learned to tell the difference between the language of the Maasai tribes that historically hunted them and the dialect of other tribes that they don't have beef with. Those elephants even have a stronger reaction to the voices of men versus women and children, since at one point they caught on that men were more of a threat. But okay, maybe an elephant understanding human doesn't impress you. What about one that speaks it? Koshik the elephant shocked the world when he started imitating his Korean caretaker with pretty eerie accuracy. Elephants are also on the VIP list of animals self-aware enough to recognize their reflection and pass the mirror test. They also pass another awareness test that might just be more impressive. So the University of Cambridge did an experiment where they had elephants pass a stick to a researcher, except the stick would be attached to a mat that the elephants would be standing on. So the elephants would have to have the self-awareness to realize they needed to step off the mat to pass the stick. And of course, they had a control group where everything was the same except the stick wasn't attached. Well, 42 times out of 48, the elephant stepped off the mat before passing the stick, compared to just 3 when it wasn't attached. And maybe that's not a big deal and I'm just being a big nerd about it, but that's arguably more impressive than being able to peep yourself in the mirror, but that's just me. I didn't even mention pregnant elephants apparently self-medicating with the plant Boraginaceae seed in order to induce labor, which some women in the same area apparently drink as tea for the same reason. There's different ways of being smart, but it's a tusk jockey's emotional intelligence that really sets them apart. You've probably seen the videos of elephant herds seeming to mourn the dead after coming across the bones of a relative. And considering their almost unnatural sense of smell, there's a good chance they knew exactly who that was, and it's not just other elephants they grieve. Lawrence Anthony was a conservationist who saved a herd of elephants from certain death after they escaped a reserve and were about to be shot, and Anthony somehow communicated with the matriarch enough to bring them back, earning him the nickname the Elephant Whisperer. He would die suddenly in 2011, and in the days after, the same elephants he had rescued showed up to his house and seemed to hold a 2-day vigil. Not only was this after not visiting for more than a year, some of the elephants traveled well over 12 hours for the funeral, and apparently they would return the next several years on the exact date of his death to pay their respects. But that leaves just one question. How? How did they know? Maybe
I've heard that certain animals, but I think especially elephants, are very sensitive. I think dolphins and orcas as well. And I think are they related to elephants? Dolphins and orcas, they might be related to elephants. But I think those animals, certain animals, especially like elephants, they feel emotion on a far greater level than humans do. Like not only do they feel emotion just like we do, with just as many emotions or have complex emotions, but sometimes even more. Sometimes they are really, really sensitive, really emotional. And I know that that's kind of difficult for us to understand, but I mean, you can see how this is, displayed a little bit through their actions.
One of the elephants saw or smelt something off and sent an infrasonic message to the others. Maybe the emergency vehicles on the property somehow got their attention. We don't know for sure, and we probably never will. Mourning the dead is just a surface of elephant empathy, because elephants are the textbook example of animal altruism. Elephants will adopt non-related orphans into the group so long that it doesn't put their own young at risk. Bundala was an elephant in a theme park who figured out how to get out of her shackles and immediately freed the others, despite the fact that they likely weren't her immediate family, and the fact that doing so made it more likely she'd get caught. That same altruism doesn't just apply to their own kind. There have been stories of these massive beasts seemingly protecting sleeping or injured humans with really nothing in it for them. And you can find videos of an elephant trying to save a rhino stuck in a watering hole, even if the rhino doesn't necessarily realize it. Don't get it twisted, they're not Mary Sue's. Elephants are still wild animals with varying personalities. That's
Look at that
about
guy
humans a
walking.
year. And of course, yeah, I didn't forget about this. And while some say the woman was involved with poaching and this was just an elephant refusing to let it slide, there's also the chance that woman ran into the wrong one at a worse time, or was just a victim of a really bad case of mistaken identity and got memed into oblivion for it. But when you take their one-of-a-kind design, their almost comic book superpowers, and the fact that their mind really is an enigma, I think that adds up to the most perfect animal nature ever did create. Not just a perfect animal, I'd even go as far as calling them the main character. We're talking about an absolute unit that creates entire ecosystems just by being themselves. And honestly, I don't think they belong in captivity. The animals that usually do the worst in zoos are the ones that are highly intelligent, highly social, and normally travel huge distances. Elephants are 3 for 3. I'm not a huge anti-zoo person. All zoos aren't created equal. Some really do their best, but often the best case for a caged elephant isn't that good. Even with Koshik the talking elephant, he was never socialized around other elephants early on, just humans. That's a miserable way to live for anyone. The world is just better off when elephants are doing well, and I'll gladly die on that hill. I just hope the elephants come to visit it. But that's it for this video. Make sure you drink water, hug your loved ones. If this video gets, I'm gonna say 150k likes,
Nah, that was a good video, and good prediction on my part. I really like elephants. I think they're one of the coolest animals ever. I love how intelligent they are. I hope we just keep learning more and more about how intelligent creatures like elephants and elephants are in the future and more. And onward and so, but thank you for watching this video. It was a good video, and hope to see you on the next one. Take care of yourself and peace out.